Hello guys, and welcome back to Bright Founders Talk from Temi, an international software development company that designs, builds and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. Today we've got with us, guys, a new guest, Peter Stuhr, CEO and founder of Leneo. Peter, hello. Thank you for coming on. How are you?
I'm fine, and thanks for inviting me. I have been looking forward to this talk, so thanks.
Likewise, most definitely likewise. Peter, we just had a quick conversation before I pressed record today. Just for the listeners so they can know the little bit of the backstory of what you told me about Leneo. Tell me, how did you come up with the name of Leneo? What does it stand for?
When you make a startup, you always want to find a kind of a cool name, and whether we achieved it or not, I will let somebody else judge. But the way we found our name is that we saw there was another company that was doing digital signing, and they were called Neo. So the pen for designing and the Neo for new. And we at that time were starting with a leasing company. So LE was for the leasing and Neo was for new. So it was kind of Leneo. So I think it took us a few minutes and and then we had the name in place. And of course, as everybody else, you go in and check, is that domain taken or not? And then you fastly register it. So no big McKinsey reports, no testing around. It's part of starting up, finding a name and move on.
Kind of must be the Danish way of doing things, very efficient and to the point, most definitely. We will a little bit, because it always interests me, kind of different nations and their different approaches to working and building their companies. Before we do, Peter, you started speaking about Leneo a little bit, just in a few words. Sentences, most probably. Tell us and our audience a little bit more about what it is you do exactly at Leneo.
Well, we built a platform that helps companies. In the beginning, it was leasing, but now it's more leasing, it's rental, it's anything as a service. So we help people, primarily companies that have a physical product, to offer that as a service. A lot of people producing robots, machineries, cars, have seen the benefit of companies going the software as a service way, offering your product as a service. Mm-hmm. They also want to replicate that in the physical world. So instead of selling a robot, you want to offer a robot as a service with maintenance, insurance, usage. And in order to handle that, we have made a platform that helps in the pricing part of it, but also in the contract handling afterwards when it's an active contract.
What I want to know before we get started, let's go into kind of your experience a little bit more, just so the listener gets to know who is Peter. Peter, tell us a little bit about your background, because I see you've got a lot of kind of experience in sales and marketing before going into the world of startups. So tell me about that background and how it helped you in order to become a better CEO and founder.
Well, classic background from the business world. And after that, I've been working primarily either in telco or working in financial services, and mainly in large corporations. So you could say my background, both from an academic point of view, but also from a practical point of view, is very much corporate companies, a lot of structure, a lot of knowledge that you can lean on. And I always have a kind of a more or less commercial role. And that, of course, led to when we started Leneo, that we, of course, do the classic founder team. So we have a commercial guy, that's me, then we have a technical guy, that is our CTO. So on that point, I think we look like, 90% of all startup companies or scale-up is that, a founder team which is include both a commercial person, but also a tech person.
So this was over, if I'm correct, over 7 years ago now, Peter. Tell me, with those kind of challenges in the first place, coming from the corporate world where you can kind of use your skills which you've got on that, what was the biggest challenge for you to become a CEO?
I think several challenges. One was definitely to start up a kind of a new network of people that I didn't know before. It was people from the venture world. It was other founders, people working in this space. All my professional network was, of course, within the corporate and clients that I knew. So suddenly I had to spend a lot of time creating a new network. People that have done this before, how could that help me? How is this raising money. How does that work? Who is kind of, helping you? How can you make sure to protect yourself, but also the idea you have? So that was a big challenge to build this kind of professional network. And luckily, I found out that all founders, also those that are second-time founders or third-time founders, are very willing to help if you kind of reach out. Could be LinkedIn, call, meet up, and because they have this feeling, and I also tried the same as, they want to help the next generation or the next one in the process, opening the right doors, because there's a lot of things to look at. So this was the network. The second part was I thought I was very agile thinking to the point. So when I made the first kind of a budget for the startup, putting in what I thought was less resources that you would use in a corporate world, when I showed that to these people that the network helped me meet up with, they start more or less laughing and say, "This you are so typical corporate guy. You put in way too much resources. You are too ambitious before you have even proven that your product's working." So I cut a fourth down to a fourth what original I thought was a very tight project, and they said this, make the MVP, talk to some potential clients, and get them to approve that if I have this and it works like this, yes, we will probably use it and build some kind of a PHP prototype that you can show investors and first clients. So that was another learning, was that, you don't have the same time or money that you are used to from a corporate world.
Tell me a little bit more about your leadership style and how these kind of corporate style leadership styles helped you in the world of startup. Because obviously the approach and kind of the atmosphere of a startup world is completely different. How did it contribute to the company's growth and success?
I think there's a big difference, because when you have a strong brand that you kind of hiring on, and that you can promise people that there's a lot of possibilities if they don't make it in your department, or they want to do something else, that they can move on from sales marketing to maybe finance or somebody else. All those things you don't have. You have an unknown name. You probably have few or no customers. So I think in the recruitment part, it's really much selling the idea, the vision, but also kind of express that the opportunity they have to make a work day that is important for them, that is flexible where they are due to interest, family setup, traveling situation. So that's kind of when they go in. And then, of course, when they are onboarded, you have to live up to this by giving them the freedom they don't experience normally in a corporate, the trust, and the possibility to put a lot of influence in the outcome of the product. Should it be the marketing, the product design, whatever. So I think my leadership is definitely been more humble towards this, because I'm very happy that people believe in our vision that me and my co-founder have created, and want to spend the time in this. Because if you go to a big Coca-Cola, if you're not happy being Coca-Cola Denmark, you can probably transfer to Coca-Cola Sweden or something like that. So there's a lot of options. We don't have that. So it's changed a lot in the leadership, been more transparent, be more kind of involving people. I don't see, we're a small company, 20 plus people, so we try not to have too much, organizational setup, different layers, but more being kind of, a group of people that together find solutions, and it's not necessarily the manager or me that has the final saying, because as I'm not a technical person, of course, the people working with the tech have to have the final say, but that's their area. So big change in the leadership.
Tell me a little bit more about kind of how this connects with your achievements as kind of top 50 future business leaders in Denmark. What kind of strategies have you employed to make sure you drive innovation and stay ahead of the kind of the dynamic fintech landscape?
I think one thing is allow people to sidetrack a little. So it's not necessarily always have to be something you put directly into the portal. So if they want to play a little with AI or do some machine learning to kind of be stronger, it's not necessarily something I can see right now, but over time that might come back because they feel more motivated in kind of what they're doing. Also try to move aside this that it's the good argument or the people with the knowledge that can decide the outcome of this. I'm more putting that direction, of course, in alignment with the owners and investors, but open the possibility that it's not necessarily this way to do it, but could be this way, as long as we kind of end up in the right path, a direction.
Peter, tell me a little bit more about, obviously we spoke about Danish company, Denmark, and Danish kind of mindset. Our company is a Ukrainian company. We speak with companies all around the world. What is the Danish way of doing something? What's the Danish way of working?
I think pretty much to the point. Not that we are unpolite, not at all, but I think we are pretty, try to be straightforward when we are having a discussion or a negotiation or approach. So I think that is kind of our mindset. Sometimes we also get this that as we are typical a trading nation, we don't have so many natural resources, so we are doing a lot of trading that sometimes we always try to trade, negotiate a bit too much sometimes, but I think Danes like a good negotiation, but also of course want to have a situation where everybody is benefiting from this. I think also another part of Denmark is that we kind of pretty much focus. We have a lot of experience and other scale-up startups that have looked much into this B2B area, when it should be a customer support system or planning tools. We don't do kind of, we don't kind of the Spotify nation or the big one. We more the B2B is software that, help planning all the wages in your restaurant or make the good booking, the good customer experience, so it runs smooth. So I think that's also,
Tell me, Peter, with regards to the development over the 7 years, what's looking forwards into the future from your experience, which you've gained over 7-8 years building Leneo? What are you looking forward to in the future? Have you got any kind of technological advancements which you are looking at, which you think is going to help advance Leneo?
Sorry, you start about the 7-8 years. Then you're frozen. So I didn't hear your questions. So
apologies. So over the last 7-8 years at Leneo, you've gained the experience to understand the market and to understand more about technology and what people want, maybe some kind of trends. What are you kind of predicting over the next few years and how you can use this fintech technology in order to advance what you're doing at Leneo?
I think what we've seen the last couple of years is there is now so many supporting tools, so many technical enhancement that I think that if you asked me 4 years ago, what will your company look like in 2025, then I would probably say 60 or 70 people when I kind of calculate customer support and so on. But I think that number will probably be the half now, because there are so many tools that improve the productivity of my developers, my customers, success managers, my salespeople. That means that if I hit a right probability and the owner's kickback, the owner's earning on this is going to probably be higher because I don't need to hire that many people. So I think we will not see, that's my view, huge tech companies, because I think that the technology will come with so many tools that helps removing, the boring task of customer support, prioritization, lead generation for the sales team, content producing. So I think that's a shift. So if I had a vision that I will be one day CEO of 100+ people, I might have to adjust that to 35, 40, but still achieve the same things. And that leads back to then all the management and all the team is even more important, because if you have 100, you might survive some few non-performers, but are you only 35, 40 people, then you have to be sure that you have the right one on your team, both in the build-up, but also as you scale.
So I guess it's changed in those recent years then, where if once a startup was seen as successful by the amount of employees it's got in its company over the first kind of few years, because it means it's advancing. It means that it's doing so well. This has changed because, as you said, you've got these supporting tools as well. Tell me, in regards to more awards that you've won over the years as well, tell me about, as a award-winning marketeer, how are you leveraging all of your experience in marketing to effectively communicate Leneo's kind of values and the value propositions and the benefits?
The audience for our solution is a tricky audience because they get so many information already. So it's not mass marketing, or it's not kind of hitting people when they're watching a football match and have the guards down. So this is it's a very professional people you want to. It's often people in a senior position, a decision position, as a position. So we need to be very efficient, because they get so many from LinkedIn approach to all kind of suggestions. So what we have seen is trying to find out where in the sell process, in the decision process are they, so we can target them. So for example, if we have made some different persona bias that we think is the right one, for example, the IT person, when do we think that they are considering our platform as ours? Because they don't buy a platform because they think it's funny and it's good. We fulfill a need. When do they realize this need is there, and who is kind of their go-to partners? Who do they turn to get knowledge, help? So that's why we have a focus on a partner strategy, because we think partners have this deeper connection, and also are there when an IT manager starts thinking about a platform like ours. If we look at the commercial people, then we try to benefit by showing what have others achieved by doing what we are doing. So they can kind of say, okay, if they have increased 10% revenue or unlocked a new market, what would that be for me if I, as a commercial person, did the same in my area or my business? So we try to not communicate the same way, but try to take those three different types and address where they are in the process, and what is, of course, ultimately the gains or pains that they are facing.
Obviously, we're talking about your expertise here, but what I want to do, I want to flip it on its head. With regards to skills that you possess or may not possess, what is your worst skill? And I ask this because, is it something that you believe you need to constantly work upon? Or is it something that you should leave to other people to be able to work on?
Yeah, I think impatient and also sometimes I neglect the details in the, for example, development, which means that those that are close to me, it's important that they have focus. Sure, one thing is, we agreed on this, and it has been on a fancy PowerPoint, and we start developing, but it's also been kind of, followed all the way, and it's final saying that it's working is approved. I think that is not a strongest skill set of mine. It's I'm more motivated of the next idea or the next client, and that means that I'll have to make sure that the people that is close to me, that they have both the ability to keep me on track in this area, but I also have this, are so senior or self-confident that they can also say to me, then, that's fine, Peter, nice idea, but let's
hold up for now.
Yeah, let's get what we already thought about last week or last month and get that up and working. So I think that's probably related to where I am, is that I tend to move maybe too fast and have maybe too ambitious, and have some time to wait on is let's get this solved before we take the next step.
Is it something that you necessarily have to work on? Is it just something that you have to have the correct staff around you to be able to kind of bring you back down to earth a little bit?
I think both. And it's also, where something we talk about in the owner, that, this is an element. And we had, prior to Corona, where we kind of scaled too early. And there was also probably a mixture of impatient and thought, well, let's scale. So I can't remember, but I saw this very good description of a company development that you should follow all the steps and be aware of not to bypass each step, because there is a natural development for a tech company that, for example, in the beginning, it's the founder that sells, and after the founder, you have to have the first sales reps on, but cannot get too many, because too many, then you lose kind of the focus. So that's So I have learned it. We learned it the hard way by
that's the
scaling to that's sometimes when you're sitting the situation again. Should you scale now? Okay, maybe we should take it a little slower and then be a little more prepared.
The mistakes or those kind of setbacks are always the best lessons. They're always the ones that stay with you.
Yes,
Peter, a little bit more about, we were speaking earlier about, you were saying how CEOs and other founders were very open to be able to give advice to each other. They want to help each other. This is obviously one of the reasons we do this podcast, because we try to create a community of tech leaders in the startup world and people who are wanting to get into the industry. Tell me, what advice would you give to those kind of aspiring CEOs and entrepreneurs looking to make a significant impact in the fintech industry, kind of even more so in the realm of circular economy solutions like Leneo?
Well, I think the first one is, as I said at the beginning, start building a network, start reaching out to people that are active in the area that you want to be active in. Don't be afraid to share your idea of what you are thinking and get some feedback. Try to remember to put it on both from an investor point of view, get the feedback, but also get it from potential customers. That gives you, so you understand what kind of dynamics is in this, and try to reach out to people that have the knowledge of the dynamics, because there's an industry that from the outside looks very profitable or very interesting or very aspiring to go into, but you need to understand the mechanism. Where is the power within this market, the marketplace? Where is the power? How does this work? So you make sure that the business model you're building, the tech solution, if that's the way you go, kind of solve this in a strong way. I always there's something rule that you should solve something 10 times worth what you're charging. Otherwise, it's hard to get people to move to your solution. So you should test your idea that and don't be sad if somebody says no, because it's better to have some honest answers than people try to be nice to you and say, oh, go ahead, do that, and then you waste a lot of money and years of your life, and then you didn't do your work in the beginning. So I think advice: go out, have build a network, understanding that the dynamics in this, and make sure that you have both the users of your solution, but also the clients of your users. How would they interact to this proposed solution?
It's one of those things, isn't it? I was watching one of those motivating videos the other day where someone was saying no, basically the amount of no's that you get in the startup world, and when you're a CEO of your own business, and how that no has to be not just it's not a failure, but it's a balance between knowing your idea is good enough and going back at it. If you changed every time you got a no, then obviously your business is going to change completely every single time. Last question for you, Peter, I have. So in regards to your experience and your future, I give this question to our speakers on the show recently. What do you want your legacy to be?
Well, there's different legacies. First of all, is that those people that are working the company feel that the time they have spent in the company has been worth it. So they feel that they have been having a good work life, and they have been challenged, and they are growing. So that's kind of on the employee part of this. Of course, on the investors, I think the legacy is, of course, that they look back and said this was a good bet. They put the money on. So that's a kind of very commercial point of this. But of course, kind of from a very personal point of view, the legacy is this, that knowing that a lot of people, companies are using the system, the ideas that me and my co-founder have kind of started out, that started a cup of coffee and some talks and some coding in PHP and, maybe a PowerPoint that was a little too showed more than we maybe could deliver at that point, but showed some vision, and that all that has kind of turned into actually people sitting day out, day in, and are happy with our system. So, I think the legacy is that a lot of people benefit from something that was in the beginning just some ideas.
Definitely, Peter, on track for achieving your legacy, it sounds like, most definitely. Peter, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been great to have you. Peter from Leneo, CEO and co-founder. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you for having me.